If you think karting is all about jumping into the kart, driving around in circles, jumping out again and doing nothing more, you should definitely watch this video and convince yourself of the opposite. Or if you already know better and want to know how to get the maximum out of your engine, or you have a two-stroke engine and want to know how to set it up, you should definitely watch this carburetor tutorial. So let's go! And with this being said, hello dear two-stroke fans to this video about how to set up your carburetor. Before we get started with the different parts in the carburetor, I quickly want to describe the main functions of it. So it's mounted here directly to the engine, and it is really a crucial part to make the engine work because it's responsible for the right mixture of fuel and air to cause the explosion later on in the engine. So how does it do it? The clean air is flowing in here and is flowing further here into the engine. But in between, the fuel is mixed into it. How does it do it? This is caused by the so-called Venturi Effect, which says when air flows horizontally over a hole, it drags up what is in this hole. So here we have the horizontal airflow, and here we have the fuel in the swimming chamber, which is connected through a channel to this inlet. So when the air flows this direction, it drags up the fuel, and in an optimum case, it drags up the right amount of fuel so that you have the right mixture of air and fuel in your engine. So now that you know the basic functions, we will get into the different parts of it in more detail, and we will discuss the symptoms that make you cause the adjustments you have to do. On top of this, I will provide you a starting point so that you have a basic setup of your carburetor and you can get started with running the engine and adjust it later on. So last but not least, I will also give you some checking points or some checking opportunities so that you can check if your carburetor is set up properly and if your engine will make this adjustment or this setup for a long time. So with this being said, let's go deeper into the different parts of the carburetor and check what we can do and what we can adjust in here. Let's go! So let's get deeper into the different parts of this carburetor. We got here the standard shifter engine carburetor Del Orto VHSH 30 with 30 standing for the size of the air inlet, which is 30 millimeters. So which parts are on it? We have basically here the idle screw, which can change the idle. Then we have here the choke for a cold start, and we have here the overflow where fuel can come out if there is too much in it. So going further in it, we have here the air inlet where the air comes in and goes later on into the engine with the right amount of fuel in it. So, and here you can see in it this throttle valve. With this valve you can regulate the airflow and therefore the mixture the engine will get. How does this work? It works basically with the throttle string or gas string attached here, and if you pull the throttle, the string will pull this up. So simple as that. As you can see, we cannot adapt the inlet size, so we cannot adapt the airflow here, but only adapt the fuel that is mixed to it. So with this being said, we will look at the different main parts first, which you can adjust in your mixture. So the half throttle mixture, which is when you pull the throttle only half, is regulated by this needle you can see here. And how you can adjust it, I will show you quickly. You just have to open up here. Lay this to the side, and then you can pull out the throttle valve. With the throttle valve in it, you see the needle, and the needle regulates the fuel coming up by how far the needle is in the nozzle holder. So when it's further in it, as you can see, it's on the downside, it's a little bit smaller than on the middle and upper side. When it's further in it, less fuel can come around it. And this is the mechanism where you can change your half throttle setup. We will basically open up here and I will show you how to change it. And then you can put out the needle and you'll see there is a clip in it, and you can change the setting of this clip. So if you go higher up, you will have less fuel in your mixture, and if you go lower with this clip, you will have more fuel in your mixture. This is a very basic changing. I would recommend to always start in a middle position, as you can not do so much damage with it, and the middle position should be very fine for a starting setup. If you feel like your engine gets too much fuel and is drowning, which you can find out if it's really like you're pushing the throttle and nothing happens first, then you should definitely go for less fuel and put the clip up higher. If it's the other way around and the engine would like to rev up very fast, and you feel like the engine therefore is revving up but then doesn't get enough fuel, then it's kind of fighting itself, and it's very rough, the engine sound. Then you should go down with the clip a little bit to get more fuel into your mixture. So let's put this to the side, and then we will look at the second basic thing, how you can adjust your carburetor setup. This was the setup for half throttle, and now we should have a look at the very, very important full throttle setup. Therefore, we will untighten this screw here. This should be a little bit tighter when you open it up, but I untightened it before the video. So let's open this up. And here, in here, you can see the nozzle holder holding this main jet. For you to better see, we will untighten the main jet. There is a little cap. And as you can see, this is the main jet. And the main jet has a tiny little hole in it. And through this hole, all the fuel that is mixed into the air is soaked up. And you adjust your full throttle setup with this tiny little hole, which you can make bigger by using a different jet. I have here the 170 main jet, and when you go smaller, you have less fuel in your full throttle setup. When you go higher, for 180 for example, you have more fuel in your full throttle setup. I would recommend you to be very conservative on this one, because a two-stroke engine already also has oil in the fuel, and therefore if it doesn't get enough fuel, it doesn't get enough oil, and then cause really serious engine damage. So I would recommend you to be very conservative on setting up this one. How do you set it up for the first time? For the first time, you should look at your carburetor and look for your inlet size. I have here the VHS H30, 30 for the inlet size, and the master rule is like inlet size times 5. So you have like 30 times 5 is 150, and then you can add something up to be a little bit more on the safe side. I would recommend you to go here with 20%, 10 to 20% on top of it, so you're really on the safe side and not cause serious damage. So in this case it would be 30 times 5 a 150 main jet. Then if you put 20% on top of it, it's like 30. So you go with a 180 main jet to be very conservative. I chose to be a little bit less conservative as I already tried it out. And I have the 170 main jet here. So with this being said, this is how you basically set up the main jet. And now we will have a deeper look into the swimming chamber and what you can adjust and what you can see in here. So let's go for this. Now we will have a deeper look inside the swimming chamber, what is in there, how you can adjust it and what it is there for. So let's go into it. To open up the swimming chamber, you have these screws here. I will open it up here live for you. They're a little bit hard. Oh no. So then we can take off this chamber, and here we go with the inside compounds of the carburetor. Here we have the swimmer itself, which has their weights on it, and when the fuel is running into the carburetor here, this one is attached to the fuel pump or to a channel which is attached again to the fuel pump, and the fuel will come in here. So when the fuel comes in here, it fills up this chamber down here. When it fills up, it has to know when to stop filling up, and then this swimmer will go up and push this tiny little needle on a valve here and stop the fuel flow from coming in. So we can look at this more accurately right now. If the inflow of fuel doesn't stop, you should definitely adjust your setup here. You can go here for heavier weights, but then it will close later on. Or you can go for lighter weights and it will close before. Another option is... I have to use that. Another option is the needle here, which blocks the valve then and the fuel flow from coming in. And there another option is to bend this one, or here to bend it a little bit. For example, I had to bend it a little bit because my carburetor, the other one, was always too full with fuel and it didn't stop the fuel flow from coming in. So this is one thing how to adjust it. So what are the other things in here? Here we have the nozzle holder, which is very dirty, by the way. If yours looks like this, you should definitely clean it with a brake cleaner or something like it. I didn't use this engine or this carburetor for a long time, so before I use it again, I will clean this up. Okay, here you have the needle valve, where the needle goes in, nozzle holder, where the main jet is mounted to it, and the throttle needle is inside of it. And here you have the secondary jet and the choke jet. So you will not adapt them at all if the engine starts. If you want me to do a separate tutorial on these two, please write it in the comments, but I never adjusted them before. So this is the nozzle holder, and this one, if you want to, you can really adapt this too, because the needle that goes into it is adaptable. You can change needle sizes. If you feel like you really have to do small adjustments, you can adjust the form of the needle, and you can also adjust something here with the nozzle holder. But honestly, I never did anything like this because I think the carburetors are delivered with an appropriate nozzle holder and an appropriate needle. So this is it for the carburetor review and the carburetor tutorial. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to write them in the comments and let me know what you think about this video and if it helped you out. So now that you know the main inside components of the carburetor, I'm only do one thing which I promised to you, which is the checking points on how to check if your carburetor or if your engine is set up properly. One thing you can do is untighten your spark plug and look at it. If it is white, then you really need more fuel in your setup, so you should adjust the main jet and the needle in the way I told you before in the video. If it is a very nice brown, then the setup should be perfectly fine. And if it is really black and doesn't seem smooth, then you have too much fuel in your setup and you can go a little bit smaller with your needle and adapt the carburetor in the way I told you how to adapt it when there is too much fuel in it. Another way to check if it's right is the revs per minute. If the RPM is in the height it should be, then you should adapt nothing. If it is too low, for example, when I have 13,000, it's really too low for my engine because it usually revs around 14,500. Then you should go with a smaller main jet and another needle position like I described to you, so really put less fuel in your mixture. But if it is revs too high, you should go with a bigger main jet and another needle position to ensure that there is no damage. The third thing is the exhaust gas temperature. If it is around 620 to 650 degree, you should adapt nothing. If it is below that, you can go with a little less fuel, adapt the main jet and needle in this direction, but if it is higher than 650 degrees Celsius, you should really go with a more fuel setup, get a bigger main jet in it, adapt the needle in a proper way, and then you can really try out everything you want and make sure you don't crash your engine. So with this being said, I can only thank you for watching the video until here. I hope I could help you out with your carburetor setup. Hope I will see you guys right now that you know this soon on the track out there or casually driving around with your two-stroke engine on the streets. And therefore, thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, I'll really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up or check the other videos in my channel, and if you like them too, I'd appreciate if you give me a subscription. So nothing more for me to do. Thank you very much for watching and see you around here soon. Bye guys.